I'm Ryan Milton from TeamFFLEX, and today we're going to talk about the truth regarding glute hamstring tie-ins. It's one of the most common questions that I receive as a coach, and obviously coaching, the athletes I coach, it is one of the most desired pieces of a physique result, especially for bikini and for wellness. And I want to go in depth today about, not only how do you get an actual glute hamstring tie-in, what does it entail, what kind of exercises and things do you need to focus on, why have you not had one before, and what do you need to actually do to make that happen on stage, no matter your level, whether you're a first-time competitor, you are a well-seasoned competitor, you're already a pro and you're trying to perfect it. We're going to cover everything in this video today that's going to just highlight the whole experience, the truth about a glute hamstring tie-in and the things you need to know if you want to pull that off. So if you're into that idea, hang out with me. I don't know how long we're going to go. We'll see what happens, but it's going to be a really valuable video to you. All right. So first things first, what you need to understand about the glute hamstring tie-in is there is no glute hamstring tie-in muscle. And unfortunately, this is something that I see paraded around on social media all the time, even by coaches, that's a whole problem in itself. That's mind-boggling that somebody's going to go hire someone that thinks there's a glute hamstring muscle. There isn't, okay? There's not. There is a combination of glute development and hamstring development. That is what your tie-in entails. So basically, it's two different muscle groups, and what your goal becomes is building those muscle groups. There is no, glute hamstring tie-in muscle. There's no special muscle. There's none of that. What it is these two muscle groups, when developed, coupled with stage-level conditioning, which means basically stage-level leanness, low body fat, how lean your physique is. So when you have that perfect situation happen, you have the right amount of muscle built, and then you have the right conditioning, now you have a tie-in. There is no special glute hamstring tie-in muscle. So if you see competitors talking about that, you see coaches talking about that, turn around, run away, lock the door, hide, because that is not the right answer. That is not what you want to be focused on. You want to, for one, be focused on building those muscles, creating muscle hypertrophy, okay, which is a fancy word, coach word, scientific word for muscle growth. This is bodybuilding. When we're talking about bikini and wellness, we're still talking about bodybuilding. We're still talking about building your body, building those muscles. That's what we're doing. So that is your goal. If you want to tie in, first and foremost is to create a good amount of glute development and a good amount of hamstring development. Only then, after this step, can you even move on to the rest of it. Okay. So even if you're just watching right now and you're like, okay, I don't even know where to start. What do I need to be doing? You need to be really focused on glute development and hamstring development and really making sure that you achieve the development required for your division, right? Which would be more in wellness. You're going to have a considerably more muscle mass in wellness than you are in bikini. But if you're going to compete in bikini, you want to meet that criteria there and make sure you still have that development that fits. Either way, you got to build these two muscle groups. You cannot diet yourself to a tie-in. I know a lot of competitors, they get in their head and they think, oh, I just got to be leaner, just got to be leaner. I saw my stage shots, just got to be leaner. I saw my check-ins, just got to be leaner. Nope. A lot of times, especially with the tie-in, it's going to come down to muscle. If you don't have the right amount of muscle first, you're never going to showcase that tie-in no matter how lean you get. And I have seen competitors on stages try to do it. I've seen very crazy lean competitors and they don't have tie-ins. And it's because, again, the first step becomes building those muscles. With that, you really do got to factor in your own physique. You got to think, okay, where's your glute development at now? Where's your hamstring development at now? Do you have any asymmetries going on? Maybe left to right. Do you have any imbalances going on? Maybe your glutes way overpower your hamstrings, so on and so forth, right? You have to address all those things and know, okay, where are you at? What do you need to be doing? And how are you going to get the best exercise? Which, by the way, I do have an ebook. It's called How to Get a Tie-In for Effing Real. And it's, people love it. It's been a really good guide, a really good insight into how to get a tie-in from activation exercises, specific exercise to do, other considerations, things you need to do to really pull that off. So that's going to be way more in depth and analytical and step-by-step than I can do for you on YouTube. It's free, so hit the link in the description. You can download that for free if you want to. Obviously, I'm going to give you a ton of value here and a ton of insight here in the video as well. But if you couple these two things, you're going to be getting a tie-in for effing real pretty dang soon. Okay, so definitely check out that ebook and download that. But first thing, obviously, like I said, you have to understand it's about that muscle mass. It's about creating that muscle density. And really that does come from a combination of factors that probably you as a competitor out there are not considering. And one of those is muscle maturity or competitor age, as I like to call it. Okay. So this means, let's take a competitor. Let's say maybe some of you out here watching are going to be doing your first season this year. Well, you're a baby in the sport then, right? You're just getting started, just getting your toes in the water, so to speak, just starting to be a competitor. You're a baby in the sport in comparison to somebody who's been doing this maybe 5, 6, 7, 8 years, who we could consider, well-established, advanced, and adult in this analogy. The people that have been doing it longer obviously will get better results overall with their physique. I think that goes without saying. I mean, imagine the first day you went to the gym. All of you watching here have been to the gym for day one. We all remember those days. You didn't know much about what you were doing. You probably just did a bunch of random stuff. You were in there training, you were doing whatever, and you were getting results because, doing anything is better than doing nothing compared to when you were doing nothing. So, of course, you started getting some results. But, of course, also over time, you began to learn better form and you began to learn better exercise. And you begin to actually advance your physique. And then everybody knows, too, the longer you've been spending in the gym, the more and more advanced it gets, the harder and harder it does get to continue to, push your physique to those new levels. So there is something to be said for the fact that, a lot of competitors coming into the sport for the first time, if your goal is chasing tie-ins and you haven't given yourself the proper amount of time to focus on building those muscles, the glutes and the hamstrings, and doing that diligently for a long period of time with the right calories, with the right macros, with the right exercise, making the right adjustments for your physique, so on and so forth, that, it could be just a pipe dream, unfortunately, to say that you're going to show tie-ins at your first show, your first season, whatever, if you haven't given respect to the building process. So step one, and it remains the most important step that I will talk about, period, in this video, is that you have to take the time to build. Again, some women have been training for years and years. They've been training a long time. They, started lifting weights in high school and through college and so on. So, you could be somebody who's already been training a long period of time, have a good muscle development, and then just shift your focus into competing, be able to pull off those tie-ins, absolutely. But if you have just now, for the first time in your life, started lifting weights and now you want to become a competitor, which, might sound crazy to some of you, but that does happen a lot. People get inspired by the sport, and that's what actually gets them motivated to go. Well, you do want to make sure you take enough time to build your muscle, to grow. And, that means improvement season, off season, working with a coach that's going to guide you. Hey, here's the best exercise. You need to be doing this for your physique. Oh, the upper glute needs this, lower glute needs this, high hamstring, we're going to need this. And I want you doing it like this with this reps and this weight. And, the stuff that I do when I'm coaching competitors that want to show their tie-ins. I do not let competitors go to stage, hopefully, right, without the glute tie-in showing if that is one of their main goals. Granted, as a coach, I work with clients. So if a client says they want to do XYZ show, I'm ultimately not in control of that. But if I had it my way every single time, I would say, yeah, if your goal is tie-ins, well, we got to build as long as it's going to take, right? And that's what I do. I assess with my clients, okay, here's where your physique is, here's where we're at, here's what we need to be seeing as far as glute development, hamstring development, these measurements need to look like this shape needs to look like that. We need to be in these spots before we even consider going into the next phase, which is to diet down to then go to stage, okay? So again, those of you out there that have a coach that doesn't understand that, it's going to be harder to figure this out. And those of you out there that are doing self-coaching, it'd be very, very hard to figure those out. So really, what we need to do, ultimately is get yourself in the mindset of understanding if you don't have a coach that's going to guide you, then, you're going to be in the spot where you're just going to have to honestly take your best guess, go to stage, and hopefully you have it. If you don't, then you're back to the drawing board, back to the build. But either way, I want you to really emphasize in your brain, all you watching, the first step and, the most important step for pretty much every single person is going to be first growth. The caveat to this would be maybe if you're already like a wellness competitor and you move to bikini, you might have to be, not doing a lot of growth because you're already going to be there. That might be a good thing. You're going to have to downsize. But for most, it's going to be growth. Get your glutes right, get your hamstrings right. And then you can move to that next step, which is going to be meeting condition. Okay, so meeting condition, stage level conditioning means the amount of body fat your body is showcasing, how much body fat you have. That tie-in is a combination of, again, the glute development, the hamstring development, and that separation then that is seen, that is caused from conditioning. So if you don't have the right amount of body fat, that's going to score you down every single which way, and you may or may not show a tie-in. So two situations that can happen. You could be too soft, right? You could have the right glute development, but you could be too soft. You won't show it. It's just going to look, blurry. It's not going to be there. You won't have that tie-in because you're not at the right level of conditioning. So that's a major effect. Another effect is if you get actually too lean in the tie-in, it can downscore you in the criteria because, as we know, bikini and wellness, the focus is not being super shredded to the bone lean. If you have that, a lot of times that's going to end up scoring you down, right? If you start to get too grainy, too feathery, too veiny, all this stuff going on with the different musculatures, bad news bears for your placings. Across the board. So really your goal becomes, okay, I got to achieve the perfect amount of conditioning for the criteria, which is stated as a slight separation. Wellness competitors, it looks to be a bit more intense, right? It looks like a deeper, harder cut. That is strictly due to the fact that they have more muscle in the lower body. Wellness competitors have a lot more glutes, a lot more hamstrings overall. So that's realistically the way that it plays out. Every single time it's going to look like that. They are, in fact, though, very comparably the same body fat percentage as bikini competitors. So very interesting to note that more muscle will pull your tie-in through more if you are still at the same level of condition. Makes sense though, right? If you think about it, if you had a plastic bag and you put your hand in it and then you're pushing, the harder that you push that, the more it's going to pop out versus not. So it's the same thing going on with your skin and glutes and hamstrings when you are building muscle. And that's important to consider. So conditioning is really ultimately the final piece to getting a tie-in. Your prep, in other words, your diet down phase, is where you want to start to do this strategically for two reasons, okay? If you don't diet enough, again, it's already lost. The mission is lost. You will get to stage, you'll be softer. You won't show tie-ins. It's not going to score you as favorably as it could. The other issue is if you diet too hard, too fast, do too much cardio, cut your calories, right? Which I know a lot of competitors and probably coaches even watching, oh, that's simple then. We'll just do 2 hours of cardio a day. We'll cut the calories. No big deal. We'll get the tie-in. No. What ends up happening is you start to burn glute muscle. You start to burn hamstring muscle. If you go too aggressive, you go too hard, you'll burn it off. So, and then you get that kind of like skinny fat look, if you will, right, on stage, which is not winning anybody, any shows, any which way, bikini, wellness, amateur, any level. So really your perfect key to your perfect tie-in becomes glute development, hamstring development, and a sustainable, slow diet down that pulls body fat without burning muscle. And if you can do this, you are going to be well in a very good spot to show tie-ins no matter your level. If this is making sense, keep watching with me. We got a lot more coming. Also, if you have not downloaded that ebook yet, get down in that link, click that link and read through that because there's specific exercise in there, activation drills, all sorts of things that are going to help you 100% pull off this tie-in if that's what you want to do. Okay, so we got conditioning, we got muscle mass, we know this. These are the areas we need to focus on, right? And if you don't pull that off perfectly, any which way, it's going to go wrong. So here's what happens. You get to stage, let's say you out here, one reason you may not have had tie-ins before, or let's say you do get to stage and you don't show them, it's probably, I will say this, probably 80% going to be the fact that you didn't build enough muscle. Competitors generally do not like spending a lot of time building. They do not like a lot of time in the off season, the improvement season, and they don't really respect the process of doing that, unfortunately, which again, great reason to have a coach in your corner that can help you and keep you on that, because I know competitors, if they had it up to them, most of them be trying to compete as often as they could financially do it, which would be a lot of times, right? But realistically, if you want to pull off this look, you want to pull off that tie-in, you want to have your best tie-in on stage for whatever level, it will, again, require significant amount of time building, and you're going to have to do that. So respecting the process of doing that. And honestly, when you get into a build mode, you're going to be in the zone where you're going to have to raise your calories. You're going to have to raise your macros. You're going to have to be adding on muscle. You should do this in a way where you don't add a lot of body fat. Okay. If you can do that, like a reverse diet, if you will, right, where you start slowly adding in the right calories, the right macros, you start increasing certain macros, maybe pulling other ones back, and you're adding these variables in as you go, the more that you can do this strategically without adding a lot of body fat, guess what? That's a huge advantage to you because you're going to grow muscle, you're going to grow your glutes and your hamstrings, and you're also going to stay relatively leaner, or as lean as you could be in an improvement season, an off season, if you will, which means that when you go diet to go to stage, it's very easy to pull through your tie-in. A big problem competitors make, they don't work with a coach in the off season or in the improvement season. They do their show and they're like, oh, well, that's it. That's the end of the story. Okay, good. I'm on my own. I'm going to, eat everything under the sun, and I'm going to, just train and lift weights and I'll grow, right? Well, what ends up happening is a lot of times your muscles don't grow any faster. They're going to grow at the same pace, whether you have, a 2,000 calorie surplus or a 500 one, whatever you need to actually grow the muscle, it's going to grow the same. So if you're piling extra calories and you're not doing the right macros and you're eating whatever you want, doing whatever, most of what you're actually going to gain is going to be body fat. And the more body fat you gain, you inevitably just need to cut it off later. And this becomes harder and harder every single time you do a diet in this way, where you kind of yo-yo back and forth. Your body fat cells become resilient, and specifically for the glute tie-in, women know this. A lot of you women watching this, very hard area to pull through with conditioning, right? And you end up getting in a pickle where your upper body's shredded lean. You're already too lean maybe for the criteria, but somehow your glutes, your hamstrings are still just holding that body fat. And again, this is natural. This is normal function of the female body to hold body fat in certain areas, but you exemplify the problems and the difficulties you will face by doing that type of a yo-yo diet, right? So if you can focus on your build and you can focus on your grow and you can grow strategically while adding minimal body fat, then you are winning the game already. You are adding muscle density, you're adding that size, you're getting yourself into that spot without adding a ton of body fat. And then when you go to prep, you just pull down a little bit, boom, you're dialed in, you're ready to go. Prep isn't miserable, you're not doing anything extreme, and you're preserving all that muscle because, again, you didn't do anything extreme on either side of that coin that now has a negative effect. Competitors that start their season too heavy with too much body fat, it sucks. It's going to be hard. It's going to be a long prep. A lot of times you don't pull it off even, right? You're not going to pull off the tie-in on stage anyway. You'll get to stage and you'll still have too much body fat because you just had not respected that process long enough or didn't even do it, right? Like I said, a lot of competitors don't even work with a coach. So if you go into that zone, it's a danger zone. It makes it harder every time. It's not the ideal. Definitely don't suggest it. If you want to lean build yourself in, that's going to be the most ideal situation. Then you just go into prep, you pull down those calories a bit, you add whatever cardio if you need to, and you pull it through. If you really want a truly great tie-in, again, your priority becomes focusing on the muscle. So cardio is an element that I get asked all the time. What's the best cardio for a tie-in? There is none. There is no best cardio for a tie-in, okay? Like what you need to be doing with cardio is as little as you can to make sure that you're not going to burn the muscle. So a lot of times, if you've trained right and you've done your diet right, you've done your build right, you've done your improvement right, you're working with a coach that knows what they're doing right, like what I do with my competitors, I will have them focus primarily on their lifting and then on their diet, okay? These are the two variables that I will then influence their growth with for muscle and then their conditioning later when on prep. Cardio becomes an add-in, a little sprinkle if we need it based on the person, wherever they're at, I put that in there, but it never is a constant staple where, hey, that's what we got to be doing every day, 365 days a year. I want you doing this. And no, that's a bad idea because guess what that does? It signifies to the body, why are we holding all this muscle? Why would we want to hold on to the glutes? Why would we want to hold on to the hamstrings? Why are we holding this stuff? Burn it, get rid of it. It's heavier. We're doing cardio all the time. We got to get rid of it, right? And that's what ends up happening. So a lot of competitors that have the problems and they don't show tie-ins, they're making a few, mistakes that are key mistakes that inevitably do lead to the fact that you will not show tie-ins. And you can do that season after season after season. But if you show me a competitor not showcasing tie-ins on stage, I will tell you it is boiling down to probably one of the main problems in this video, which is going to be that. Other considerations, right, that you want to factor in, other things. And again, if you still have watched this far, you didn't grab my ebook, do it. It dives even deeper than I'm going to go here. But the other considerations would be exercise selection. So are you doing the right exercises to actually pull through a tie-in, which you might say, can't I just do any glute exercise, any hamstring exercise? No, not really, because you got to kind of look at where your physique is, what your muscles are doing, what the shape is, And then you got to work with, again, the fact that every single person's structure is different, how they're going to perform that exercise is different, the activation they're going to get from that exercise is different, and how that's applying is going to be different. So again, this is where custom programming, custom tailored stuff, something a coach can give you, is really important. When I'm working on, the perfect programs to pull through glute hamstring tie-ins for my clients, I'm looking at, okay, well, where are we at here? Where do we need to be here? Oh, okay, here's the glutes relation into the hamstrings, and we need to improve this upper glute piece here, and we got to work on the high hamstring a bit more. We got to actually work on all this comes into play. And then I go pull exercise and I select them and I put them in there and I build the reps and the sets and the tempos and everything else that I want to have that person doing to be able to get to that tie-in level, right? And then I monitor and I adjust and I add this, take away that, do whatever it takes to get somebody on that glute tie-in threshold, right? So realistically, you do need to have exercise selection that's going to work. You are going to have some customization to that for sure. And then you also have to make sure you're getting proper activation. So are you doing the right activation drills? Do you have the correct mobility to even be doing the exercises, right? Are you working on your mobility? Or is there mobility that you could improve that would enhance your ability to get a tie-in? So there's a million different things to consider. It's already a 22-minute video, so I appreciate you watching. I could go on all day. If you want a part 2 with more ways to get a tie-in, let me know. And also definitely check out my ebook, download that ebook, and I'll go all day. If you want a 3-hour video on tie-ins, I'll do it. I'll do whatever you want to really explain this, but what you need to know fundamentally is you probably need to spend more time growing, and you probably need to do that with a coach. And then you probably should consider a diet that is going to support both, not only in the improvement season and in the prep season, being as lean as possible while building the muscle you need, and then dieting down while maintaining that muscle. Okay, so very important stuff. Consider it, keep minds on it, and best of luck to everyone out there. If you need any help with anything, you can reach out to me anytime, Ryan@TeamFFLEX.com, 2 F's, and I'll answer you. If you have questions on tie-in, anything else, I'm happy to answer that anytime. All right, thank you for watching. Coach Ryan is out.